This is the Big 8 Gridiron Report. Now your hosts, Drew Goodman and Dave Logan.
And hello again, everybody. Welcome to the Big 8 Gridiron Report. I'm Dave Logan.
And I'm Drew Goodman. What a week it was in Lincoln, Nebraska, especially if you're a Buffalo fan. What a great fourth quarter for Colorado as they come from behind and knock off the previously unbeaten Cornhuskers. And Oklahoma ended that three-game losing streak in grand fashion, as Harry Callis would say.
Yes, indeed. Also, both Kansas schools get a victory. Kansas travels to Stillwater, Oklahoma, and defeats the Cowboys. And Kansas State break up the Wildcats. They get their fifth victory of the year in a tough game at home in Manhattan. They beat Iowa State 28-14. So really some great games during the course of the week in the Big 8 Conference. None better than the one you mentioned, Nebraska and Colorado.
Yeah, I think many people's focus around the nation was on the Big 8 this weekend, particularly on Lincoln, Nebraska. And it was a football game that Nebraska led 12-0 as they went to the fourth quarter and then the wind at the back of Colorado. David, we talked a lot about this ball game, not only on the air but off the air. Did you ever imagine one team, whether it be Colorado or Nebraska, being able to win if you put it on the carpet as many times as Colorado did?
No, I really didn't. I thought with the great defense both clubs played, that turnovers would play a large role in the game, and Colorado was able to overcome all of the fumbles. Nebraska defensively really held Colorado down in the first half, and the Cornhuskers had a chance to put this thing away in the third quarter. They miss a chip shot field goal. Do they or don't they step out of bounds? Mickey Joseph's long touchdown run, but it wasn't a touchdown, cost them at least 4 points. And then give credit to Colorado in the fourth quarter. They came back, they dominated the line of scrimmage, they did what they had to do after, of course, the fake punt that didn't work for Nebraska, and the Buffs get the victory.
Two possible points for turning points, if you were, places for turning points. Do you think it was the missed field goal by Barrios, the short chip shot after Joseph's run, or do you think it potentially was still winnable for Nebraska when Tom Osborne decides to fake the field goal deep in his own territory?
Well, I like that call.
Fake the punt.
Yeah, I like the fake punt call. People say, nah, you shouldn't have run it. There were still 6.5 minutes left. But I'll tell you, if you run a fake field goal when they expect you to, it never works. Nobody, I don't think anybody expected that fake field goal call, fake punt call, and it just didn't happen to work that time. But I thought the call was a good one.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, we'll talk more about that in a little while. Let's get you updated on Big 8 conference standings. David, shakes down what? Colorado on top?
Colorado on top. They are 5-0 in the conference. Nebraska 4-1 after their game. 8-1 both teams are. Actually, Colorado 8-1-1. Oklahoma with their victory, 3-2 in the conference. And Kansas 2-2-1. The Jayhawks are 3-5-1 overall.
And then, as David mentioned, break up the Wildcats. Wildcats no more. They are 2-3 in conference play, but 5-4 overall. Iowa State, disappointing, 1-3-1. They thought they would do better this year, especially in conference play. Oklahoma State 1-4, 3-6 overall, and then Missouri 3-up and 6 down. And
some of the outstanding running backs, I guess we'll call them all-purpose runners in the Big 8 Conference. Let's take a look and see where they stand. The leader, Eric Bieniemy of the University of Colorado, he's got 1,500-plus yards, followed by Gerald Hudson of the Oklahoma State Cowboys, Leotis Flowers, who was injured in the big game between Nebraska and Colorado, and Mike Pritchard, who doesn't run much from scrimmage, and yet he is a big play guy, certainly one of the biggest in the country.
Yeah, without question. Everybody talks about Rajib Ismail, and the Rocket is a great player.
Yep.
But Mike Pritchard, if I had to give away an MVP trophy for that ball game, Mike Pritchard might have gotten it. So
I think Mike Pritchard might very well be the MVP of the team this year. And they've got some good players in Colorado.
Yes, they do. I'll tell you what, we'll talk more about that football game when we come back after this timeout on the Big 8 Gridiron Report.
Back to the Big 8 Gridiron Report along with Drew Goodman. I'm Dave Logan. Trivia question number 2. If you're an Iowa State fan, this one's for you. We're looking for the 3 all-time passing leaders in Cyclone football history. Drufus. Words of wisdom.
Yeah, probably best thing I've had to say in a while. Brett Oberg graduated last year. He's got to be among the top 3, I would think. He was a good quarterback last year. Mm-hmm. David Archer, guy played with Atlanta for a while. Played
True.
In the NFL.
Very good. I'm impressed. Do you have the 3rd quarterback, who actually is the leader?
I don't have the leader?
You don't have the leader.
No, I don't know.
Did you say Alex Espinosa?
I did.
That's exactly right.
On the tip of my tongue.
Alex Espinosa
I
is
should have
right.
gotten that. He just played not too long ago.
Yeah, they were good quarterbacks. Iowa State's really thrown the ball effectively the last few years. I remember George Amundsen back in the early 70s. Not a great passer, but certainly a great runner. Anyway, enough of that. Iowa State traveled to Manhattan, Kansas Saturday, trying to improve their record in the Big 8 Conference. Kansas State taking advantage of numerous cyclone miscues. They had great field position most of the day. It was a lousy day in Manhattan, very rainy, but the Wildcats didn't care. Let's go back and see what happened Kansas State and Iowa State this past Saturday.
It was a cold, rainy homecoming afternoon in Manhattan, Kansas, as the Wildcats played host to the Cyclones of Iowa State. And the weather made for a sloppy start. On the first drive of the game, the Cyclones were forced to punt, but John Schooner mishandled the snap and is swarmed by Jamie Mendez and Billy Ray Smith. Kansas State took over on the Iowa State 44, but 2 plays later, Carl Straw is intercepted by Mark Dubrava, and he takes it all the way back to the Cyclone 39. Iowa State again couldn't move the ball and punted to the Wildcats' Michael Smith, but he fumbles, and Cyclone tight end Paul Schulte is there for the recovery, and Iowa State is in prime real estate at the Cats' 21. Blaze Bryant then got around the left corner and raced for 15 yards to the K-State 6-yard line. Then on 4th and goal from the 1, it's Bryant again. But this time he fumbles, and Jamie Mendez picks it up, killing the Iowa State drive. Meanwhile, Kansas State was unable to generate any offense as Todd Miller gets the straw for the 10-yard loss. Iowa State kept coming at the Wildcat defense. Chris Peterson on the keeper picks up 24 yards, and again the Cyclones are on the K-State doorstep. Bryant gave it another go, and this time he took it around the end for 8 yards, breaking the scoreless tie and giving the Cyclones a 7-0 lead. Things didn't go well for the Iowa State contingent later as John Schooner found himself in trouble once again. And again, Jamie Mendez greeted the punter for the loss, and the Wildcats took over on the Cyclone 29. Andre Coleman picked up 10 yards on this carry down to the 19. Then on the next play, Straw hooks up with Frank Hernandez for the 19-yard scoring strike, and the game is knotted at 7. It didn't take Iowa State long to get that one back as Peterson goes up top to Craig Mahoney for 42 yards, all the way down to the 16. Three plays later, Sundiata Patterson goes up the middle, giving Iowa State a 14-7 lead going into the halftime. Things went downhill for the Cyclones in the second half as Chris Peterson is intercepted by Roderick Green. The Cats are at the Cyclone 30 and look to tie the ball game. 6 plays later, that's what they did as Pat Jackson made it 14 apiece. The Cyclone offense again turned the ball over to the Wildcats as Chris Patterson recovered, setting up Richard Boyd's 1-yard score and a 21-14 lead. Then Carl Straw looked to put the nail in Iowa State's coffin as he goes to the air and finds tight end Al Jones for the 47-yard scoring connection. And it looked to be a homecoming triumph for Kansas State as they led 28-14. The Cyclones didn't quit. Peterson with the pass to Chris Spencer for 20 yards set up Jeff Schudak's 45-yard field goal try. But it was no good, and K-State held. The Kansas State offense could not get anything going the rest of the game. But thanks to a stingy defense that helped out with another interception, the Wildcats picked up their first homecoming win in 9 years, dropping Iowa State 28-14 in Manhattan.
Tough to win a football game if you turn it over, talking about Iowa State, at your own 19, your own 30, your own 47, and your own 1. And to Kansas State's credit, they took advantage and pushed it into the end zone each time.
I'll tell you what, we have tipped our hat a number of times this season to Bill Snyder and his crew, but he's done a terrific job. This is not a football factory, a football power. It hasn't been during the course of their tenure, but Bill Snyder has just done a fantastic job. Iowa State felt like they needed to win 3 games after the Nebraska loss to have a realistic chance of making a bowl appearance, and they've kind of messed that thing up.
Yeah, they've really messed that up. I don't think Iowa State has a chance anymore of going to a bowl game. Bill Snyder said after the ball game that this might have been our biggest win since he took over the program a year ago. I don't think there's any question it is. And the reason he felt that is because they beat a team, he said, that maybe they weren't as good as. And another thing, they're used to losing games in bunches in a row. They had lost 2 in a row. They'd given up over 1,000 yards in total offense, Dave. And last week, they got it right, knocked off a team, and ended that losing streak.
Well, they bounced back, and to give Kansas State credit, 5 wins this year. It's a great year for them.
Yes, it is. When we come back to the Big 8 Gridiron Report, as always, we are glad you are with us. Drew Goodman along with Dave Logan. I'm glad you're with us as well this week,
Thank
David.
you, Drew.
Okay.
I'm always with you.
Are you ready for the Players of the Week, Dave?
Certainly.
All right, let's begin with the Offensive Player of the Week. It goes to Kansas sophomore quarterback Chip Hillary. All he did was set 3 career bests in the Jayhawk win over Oklahoma State, 31-30. He was 18 of 30 for a career-high 250 yards. He had a career long pass of 72 yards. The Westerville, Ohio native directed Kansas's winning drive and completed the touchdown pass on 4th down. Chip Hillary, the Offensive Player of the Week from the University of Kansas.
And the defensive player this week in the Big 8 Conference is nose guard from the University of Colorado, Joel Steed. Joel had 11 tackles as Colorado beat Nebraska 27-12 on Saturday. The Denver, Colorado native had 7 unassisted tackles, including 1.5 sacks. The Steed led his teammates' efforts in holding Nebraska's offense to its lowest production of the season in 3 categories. The Huskers mustered just 9 first downs, 163 yards rushing, and only 232 yards of total offense against Colorado's defense. The defensive player of the week this week in the Big 8 Conference is Colorado defensive tackle Joel Steed.
Bill McCartney has to absolutely love his nose tackle, Joel Steed. Over the last couple of years, the biggest football games he has had has come against the University of Nebraska. Last year, certainly, and this year to date against Nebraska.
Well, he holds up the middle of the line. It's certainly tougher to run against Colorado with a big, strong defensive tackle like Joel Steed. Had a great game, as you mentioned, last year against Nebraska. Maybe the play of the game as he got Jerry Godowski from behind, Nebraska driving for what would have been the winning touchdown. And Steed's been a terrific player over the years.
That was a phenomenal play, that 3rd down and 4 last year against Nebraska. Yeah, as you mentioned, might have been the biggest play in that football game. Well, we're talking about Nebraska and Colorado. Why don't we return to Lincoln? Our first play of the week occurred in the 4th quarter. Darian Hagan goes back to pass on 3rd and 7, and this is a great throw, folks, but a difficult grab. Mike Pritchard, their money man at receiver, a hands grab on a slippery day. He keeps 1 foot in bounds, and they're out at the 1-yard line, and Eric Bieniemy would punch it over from there, and Colorado would go on to that 27-12 victory over Nebraska.
Well, we've got another good catch for you, the second play of the week in the Big 8 Conference. This one took place in Stillwater, Oklahoma, Kansas and the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Kansas with the ball. They score 30-29, Oklahoma State ahead. KU going for 2 points and the win. Hillary drops back, finds Kenny Drayton in the end zone for the 2 points and the victory as Kansas beats Oklahoma State 31-30 for their first victory against the Cowboys since 1972. Nice to see that 2-point conversion. And again, Kansas calling a couple of timeouts. I'm not sure if they wanted to go for it. And once they decided to go for it, what play they were going to call.
Yeah, and it took them a couple of times, but they finally came up with a play. And it was the right play, as you saw there. Let's go to Columbia, Missouri for play number 3. It's the end of the 3rd quarter, or near the end of the 3rd quarter, and Cale Gundy drops back to pass, and he lost a 49-yard job to Corey Warren that put them way out in front with a 48-10 lead, and the Sooners rolled over Missouri. The final there, 55-10. Cale Gundy, a true freshman. I can think of worse quarterbacks I'd like to build my program around other than Cale Gundy, an 18-year-old freshman at Oklahoma.
He's got a great arm in the next 3 years. I think fairly bright in terms of what Oklahoma fans can hope for with the Sooners. Well, the fourth play of the week in the Big 8 Conference, yet another pass. We'll go to Manhattan, Kansas on Saturday. The Kansas State Wildcats third quarter. It's 1st and 10 on the 47. Carl Straw goes back, throws a 47-yarder to tight end Al Jones. He takes it in for the touchdown and a 28-14 win over the Iowa State Cyclones. Speaking of Cale Gundy, not a bad throw by Carl Straw, the Wildcats quarterback. He's made a few of those this year.
You're right. He gets lost in the shuffle with all the outstanding players in the Big 8 Conference. Carl Straw's had a nice year.
Absolutely.
When we come back, by the way, no hit of the week, we implore the Big 8 teams, especially the defenses, get after one another. We haven't had a hit of the week in a couple
Well, we just couldn't find one. There was some pretty good tackling.
I'm sure. It's easy for us to say, isn't it?
Yes.
When we come back, we'll have our prediction segment very quickly. And welcome back to the Big 8 Gridiron Report. It is time to check the tally sheet.
Yes, it is.
I look to be buying dinner in Miami. Dave, why don't you tell them about it then, all right?
Like how many games you've missed. You're 27-13, Drew. They've already seen that. I'm 32-8. We missed a couple this week. You missed on the big one.
I had Kansas winning.
Well, that was one of the big ones, but...
I missed, right, you're right. I had Nebraska winning at home, and they didn't do that.
No, they didn't.
And we have 4 ball games this week.
Yes, we do. You can start it off. You can still make a late charge here. The season is not done.
See, he
Don't disappointed.
He doesn't allow me to make a late charge because whatever team I pick, he'll pick that team as well.
That's not
the
true.
Worst we get is
you
a
picked
push.
Nebraska last week, as we argue here in front of thousands, maybe millions.
Missouri travels to Ames, Iowa. What do you do?
What do I do? Or who do I like? I like Iowa State in this game. I think Cyclones coming off that loss in Manhattan, Kansas, are going to be fired up a bit, and I think playing at home, they will have enough to beat the Missouri Tigers.
Think they can give the ball to Blaze Bryant more than 40 times? He had it 40 times last week. I like Iowa State also.
All right.
Can't make up any ground there.
Kansas State visiting Norman, Oklahoma. Bet we can't make up ground here
any ground here either.
What do you think?
As much as Bill Snyder has moved his team along, they don't have the horses to beat Oklahoma.
I would agree. I'll take the Sooners. Oklahoma State visiting Boulder. Colorado must win their last 2 games to assure themselves of a visit to the Orange Bowl.
And I imagine they will. I think they will knock off Pat Jones's team.
Oklahoma State, by the way, just a note, they've won the last 3 times they played in Boulder. Matter of fact, CU has not beaten Oklahoma State in Boulder since 1981. But I too will take Colorado.
I think that'll come to an end.
All right.
This coming Saturday. Nebraska travels to Lawrence, Kansas. This is one. Now, there's no question Nebraska has a better football team. I'm trying to make you...
I'm listening.
Right?
I'm looking at you with a doubting
Perhaps
glance.
an emotional letdown after a big football game. And, of course, Oklahoma's still to come for the Cornhuskers.
You're picking Kansas in this game.
No, I'm not picking Kansas.
Well, what are you doing?
I'm trying to convince you perhaps Kansas might pull the upset.
Well, as much as I admire the job Glenn Mason's done, I think Nebraska will be a bit unhappy this week. I don't think Tom Osborne's troops will go into Lawrence in a great frame of mind, and I think Nebraska wins the game.
Yes, I would agree with that. We have a moment here, and I want to mention this has been a great year for the Big 8, not only on the football field, but in the classroom as well. They lead all the conferences around the country as far as scholar athletes are concerned, and they have some outstanding people. And
sure do.
We want to mention Kent Kiefer, the great quarterback on the field at the University of Missouri. He has an outstanding GPA. Pat Tyrants, number 40, inside linebacker for Nebraska, pre-medicine major, pre-med major.
Craig Mahoney of Iowa State, also.
All guys with very close to 4 O's in the classroom, and we thought that we should pass that along.
We also want to remind everybody that we again this year will be going to Miami for the Orange Bowl special. We'll have a good time. Both coaches, whomever they might be, will have the stars of both teams, and of course Drew will be buying me dinner in Miami, so I'm going to have an enjoyable time.
And I will have a rather penniless time when I get down there. That'll do it for this edition of the Big 8 Gridiron Report. Of course, we will be with you again next week. For my partner, Dave Logan, I'm Drew Goodman. Take care, everybody. Have a good week.